In this episode of Restore It, I grab a bunch of random parts from the storage room and restore them whilst I wait for the new chassis panels to arrive. So here's what we're working with. First and foremost, everything was dismantled and given a good clean in the parts washer to remove any loose dirt, grease or oils. With most things cleaner and drying in the sun, I removed the fake OMP steering wheel from the steering column, and yes, feel free to judge me, this was an awful choice made by a much younger version of me, and I'm now in the market for a 375mm MTEC 1 steering wheel. Also, it looks as if the boss kit has broken my horn contact ring. We'll come back to this later. Lastly, to get dismantled and go into the parts washer were these rear light covering caps. These covering caps are in good condition and could be saved. The same couldn't be said, however, for the outer parts, as they both suffered from damage. I have new gaskets ready for the new ones when I find them, but as you can see, this one has a crack in it, and this one's film has been scratched quite badly. With everything cleaned, I began removing the surface rust from a few parts with a rotary tool and some steel wire bits. The steering linkage really needed an ultrasonic cleaner, something I ordered but sadly never arrived. So I completely dismantled it to make it easier to clean and also to get a good look at the rubber flex disc inside, which has definitely seen better days. The paint on these two parts has bugged me ever since I bought the car. Finally, I get to take it off with some paint stripper. Looking a lot better, but as you can see there is still some dirt stuck on the inside walls. We'll come back to this later as well. The clutch fluid reservoir was separated from its mount and the rust removed on the bench grinder along with the other rusty parts. With all of the trim parts cleaned and laid out, I could see the true extent of the damage some of the parts had endured. Before I brought them back to life, I removed any stuck on rubber or adhesive with a blade and some alcohol. I then keyed the plastic with some 400 grit sandpaper to prepare it for paint and also to remove any small imperfections. Any deep scratches were filled with a rubber-based flexible filler, ideal for bumpers and any other plastic parts like this one. Some of the plastics were damaged and were proving quite difficult to repair. I decided to put them in the replace pile for now. This is the paint I use for the trim parts, interior or exterior. It's a textured matte black that looks, in my opinion, very factory fresh. I cleaned them down with quartz silicone remover and gave them 2 coats of paint. Going back to these expansion tanks, I needed a way to seal all of the holes so I could clean the insides thoroughly. I used polydoe plastic to plug the holes and a mixture of metal BBs, sticks, tumbler rocks, alcohol, degreaser and a lot of shaking to scrub and clean the insides. This polydoe stuff is great for making your own bottle caps that can be used over and over again. Once clean on both the inside and out, I used steel wire bits to remove any stubborn marks or dirt that was left over. My plan was to whiten the plastic using a hydrogen peroxide and oxy stain remover solution and a UV light. I left them overnight with no significant difference whatsoever. I then tried a chlorine bleach solution for a day, again to no effect. So I decided that they would be replaced with new ones as I think they're too far gone. The rear light covering caps were covered in scuffs from things moving around in the boot and general wear and tear over the years. All of the rotary knobs were cracked and needed to be replaced. I used alcohol for the final clean before sanding them with 400 grit wet and dry. I accidentally only ordered one rotary knob, so I'll wait for the other 3 to arrive before I install them. So I did look for a replacement horn contact ring when I first discovered it was broken, but I couldn't find one, so I thought I'd see if I could fix it with a 2-pack adhesive. We'll see how that holds up later on. The ignition key surrounding needed de-rusting and a fresh coat of paint. I did it with a brush, but I think I'll do this again with the spray guns before it gets installed. A few pieces needed to go in the blasting cabinet so I could shot blast the rusted areas that were too difficult to get to with the wire wheel or rotary tool. I then finished them on the wire wheel to make sure all of the rust was gone and also to polish them in preparation for zinc plating. I decided I was going to paint the steering column along with a few other bits to prevent them from rusting in the future should they ever get wet. Whilst that was drying, the bonnet notches and a few other bits were zinc plated and passivated. With the spray booth free, I sanded the primer back and mixed up the paint for the steering column. Two coats of base coat and 2 coats of quartz crystal clear lacquer, and it was done. A few miscellaneous items needed a small amount of touch-up paint, and so I did it with a spray can for ease. This shift bushing in the shifting arm could easily be pushed out in the press and replaced with a new one, so that's exactly what I did. Going back to the steering column, which was now dry, I removed the masking tape to find that of course, the horn contact ring couldn't even take that. It probably wasn't fully dry either, but it's a good job it did break because I looked again, harder this time, and found that they are indeed available. I drilled the rivets out and added it to the list. So here are the parts I'm going to replace with new ones. I'm going to stick to genuine BMW where I can, and only go for high quality OEM replacements. Which brings me nicely onto our sponsor of this video, FCP Euro. FCP Euro have been selling high quality car parts since 1986, that's over 34 years in the game. They currently stock over 350,000 genuine OE and OE replacement parts ready to go as soon as you need them. They specialise in only the highest quality parts for BMW, Volvo, Audi, Volkswagen and Mercedes, as well as select items catalogued for Porsche, Range Rover, Jaguar and Saab. All with a genuinely unbeatable lifetime guarantee, something you need to see to believe. As you can see, they stock 95% of the parts I need to rebuild this E30 back to its former glory. So if you want the very best for your car, head over to FCP Euro using the link in the description and see for yourself the sheer amount of quality parts they have in stock that come with a lifetime guarantee. Thanks to FCP Euro for supporting the channel. Let's get back to the workshop. These sun visors will be restored along with the rest of the interior in a series of its own, so stay tuned for that. As for everything else, apart from waiting for new bushings, clips, grease, etc., they were ready to go back in the car. Like I said in the beginning, I'm still waiting for the new chassis panels to arrive. As soon as they do, the work will be done and the episode will be made. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.